My question was to do with communication. Since this is a film, since this is a film where you had her parents, Justin's parents as a mediator, how did that sort of affect
Yeah.
communication in a way? Did it make it much longer than expected? And if so, did that give you more time to see things as the filmmaker visually? Did it give you the time you needed to make that
Mm.
meaningful to you, if that makes
Mm.
sense?
Good. Yeah, that does make sense. That's a really good question. I mean, the first point here is to understand the legal framework of working with somebody with severe disabilities.
Mm.
So, in legal terms, you don't just need their permission because they're not fully able to give their permission, as we've discussed, but you need the permission of the parent or guardian. So, mum and dad in this case, absolutely central, particularly mum, because she spent a lot more time with Justine. So my access all depends on the quality of the relationships with the people who care for Justine initially. So they opened the doors. They Justine could sense, observe, understand that she was safe with me if mum and others were comfortable with Iris and with me and how we work together. So that first point, that we stand on the shoulders of the good relationships that people have with someone like Justine. So that was essential. But having got in the door, as it were, I felt very strongly that this needed to be a film that, Justine's film, not a film majoring on the views of people, however wonderful, and they are wonderful, but however wonderful the people who care for her. We hear from them all the time. Just people who are nearly mute. Like, it's very hard for them to articulate their experience. But with film and observation, we can start to intuit and understand by approaching direct experience with that person. So then the job was to make sure, having created those relationships with mum and dad and whoever else, that also I had enough time with Justine where she could relate in the way she wanted to. And who was it? Was it Jamie earlier talking about a moment where Justine comes towards the camera and kind of wants to interact? And that was, it surprised me, but it was quite heartening because she was showing her own behaviours and her kind of making her decisions, being her own person. So the short answer is, you want both. You got to go in the door based on the good relationships, and then not be imprisoned by those relationships.
Yeah.
Because mum and dad have got their own views, and everybody invested in representation wants it to, typically I don't know if you've had this experience with your films, Ben, but when you show your work, typically the people who want to talk to you are the people who agree with what you're saying. But that's not the best way of knowing whether you've made good work, in my view, because you're in a territory where it's great. I mean, so that's welcome. But more interesting is how they engaged with it. Did it adjust our ways of seeing each other? Was I challenged in making it? Were you challenged in receiving it? Has the world kind of shifted slightly? If so, in what way? That's the more interesting bit. And if you let, in this case, mum or whoever, you let their views start to run how you see things, or even configure the space so you can only see them through their point of view, that wouldn't, if I allowed that to be the main determinant, then we wouldn't have got some of the sequences where we start seeing Justine more on her own terms. Well, that's my contention anyway, that we start to move into that area.
Thank you.